Hey guys, I'm Andy Burgess. I am a documentary filmmaker producing short form docs on YouTube. So I started off making videos in an unconventional way. I didn't go to film school, I didn't study film, I actually studied music, and my entryway into making videos was on Snapchat. I was on a trip in Switzerland in 2016 and I was surrounded by these beautiful, gorgeous mountains, and I wanted to just capture the experience, and the only thing that I had on me was my phone. I just pulled out my phone from my pocket and I started snapping these 10-second clips, and I was trying to put them into a sort of a cinematic minute-long video just using Snapchat. And from there it kind of evolved, and I just got really obsessed with hacking this app and how I could really push the boundaries of what was possible on Snapchat. This was in 2016. Instagram stories were just taking off and the vertical video space was really new. So I was spending every day trying to just make these videos more cinematic, more interesting for the viewers watching them. And that evolved into becoming my career. I started out as a full-time content creator in 2017. I moved to New York, and from doing that and making these videos on my phone, I managed to travel the world and tell all these incredible stories on Snapchat. But it was really in 2019 where I took two trips that really changed my perspective on how I wanted to make videos, and they were trips to Palestine and Bangladesh. And on both those trips, we were out there teaching students how to tell stories with their phones and how to empower them and share their voice through social media. I started to really think about how I would transition the camera away from just focusing on me and focusing on stories that are way bigger than myself. And I wanted to position me as a guide to an audience that perhaps didn't know as much about the topics we were covering. So going forward, I moved into positioning myself onto YouTube, shooting on cameras, and then I started to tell stories from other parts of the world, using myself as a guide and bringing the audience along. So somebody in America who doesn't know about the refugee crisis in Bangladesh, we could break down and explain that topic to them in a concise and simple way that they then leave that video with a better understanding of what's happening in Bangladesh. I think what's really interesting about the YouTube space is you have more room to build out these videos. They can be a bit deeper than these 10-second to 60-second Snapchat videos, but they're also not full-length documentaries. So it's finding a balancing act between sharing the important, valuable information, which is the reason the person's clicked on the video, but how do you also retain their attention for anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes. So one of the recent pieces that I was working on is for a YouTube channel called Terra Matter, and the piece was on the waste crisis in Lebanon. So for this piece, I was flying out to Lebanon in September of 2021 for a week to shoot this project, to show the environmental issues that are happening in Lebanon and potential solutions. So this was a production that was just me filming. A lot of these documentaries it's either just me or a very small team. I had a producer and a story editor who were helping me craft the piece. And on the ground, I had a local fixer, but doing all the shooting, the interviews, building out the story, the editing, like that all kind of lands on me. In the YouTube world, you're wearing so many hats. You're an editor, you're a writer, you're a host, you're doing multiple things. And then when you're actually going out in the field to produce these docs as well, like it's very tolling. It takes a lot on you. I love it. Like I absolutely love meeting people and hearing their stories and capturing them. But it definitely takes a lot. So today I want to share with you the process of how we actually made that piece in Lebanon and what it entailed, like the behind the scenes of that as a creator. Like, so if you're into the prep and the shooting and the editing, like I think this is definitely for you. Okay, so this is like the side of the studio where we work from. These are the desks. This is my second desk. So if I have friends come in or I have like a second editor, they can sit here. This is like a super old Mac from like, I don't know, 2012 that makes a really whiny sound. But what I use this for primarily is like archiving footage and backing up footage. These are like drives from, I think this drive is from like maybe like 2012, and they're each like 18 terabytes or something. So I can just go into any files that I have and pick them out. So I can go into 2019, find a trip that I took to Copenhagen, and then I have all these files laid out by camera, and I can just easily grab footage. So if I need something from like my past to overlay a video, it takes me minutes to find that footage. So having great file management on all my footage is like everything. So having a dedicated computer for that is perfect. So that's kind of all this does. And then I also record voiceovers over here. So this is where I edit from, and also shoot YouTube videos if I need to. So I have my Sony a7S III here with the JOBY Wavo Pro mic on a Manfrotto tripod. That just sits here all day, so I can just adjust the desk, sit down, do voiceovers. I got another boom mic if I want this here. So this is great if I ever, not that I do, but if you were doing a lot of like YouTube tutorial stuff, I could just like sit at the desk and talk straight to camera whilst I have whatever's on my screen. So I use this area a lot for that. And occasionally I do drop down shots from here where I can just attach a camera above. So with Lebanon, I spent weeks researching just the history of the country, the political landscape, the economic environment, the environmental side of the country. Even if we don't cover all these topics, like we don't really go into the political state, but it's really important that I understand the state of Lebanon and how it got there for me to tell this story. So a place that I start off is listening to podcasts. Most people will be aware of the huge port explosion in Beirut in 2020. And I thought that was going to be a good entry point into the current situation in Lebanon. So I'm listening to lots of podcasts and reading loads of articles, trying to really work out what are the main issues at the moment. And then I'm also looking for solutions. So I'm on Reddit and Twitter trying to reach out to people in like the Lebanese subreddits about, hey guys, we are telling a story about the environmental waste crisis in Lebanon. Do you know of any NGOs or solution-based activities that we could highlight? And yeah, and then it's moving into the logistics. So I have written this story outline in Google Docs. This will also become my script eventually. And I then also produce a Google Doc for Giorgio, our fixer, with kind of just like bullet points of things that I want to shoot. So I want to see overflowing landfills. I want to see polluted beaches. I want to see beautiful beaches. I want to talk to fishermen. And then I also have a list of potential people that I want to interview, like people that work at landfills, fishermen, people who are working in NGOs, lots of different people that I think could add to this story. So I make these lists, I send that to Giorgio, so he can start to build out a picture of the story that I want to tell and start to like put those things in work for when I land in Lebanon. Okay, so this is an overview of my documents that I use to build out this story, starting with the story outline. For a piece like this, the script comes after I get back from the trip, because I know that this story could completely change when I'm on the ground and I've heard from people that I'm talking to. So I don't want to write that script until I've experienced everything and spoke to as many people as possible. The research is one thing, but then it's also talking to the people in Lebanon. Writing the script after production allowed me to actually add images in, so I could visualize what I was seeing here. So for the intro, I knew I wanted to start with the mountain of trash. So I added visuals so my producer and story editor could see what it was going to look like as well. So in the left-hand column, I write my script. The middle, I write general directions. If it's going to be an animation, if it's visuals, I'm showing it. And then on the right, I'm putting my sources. So when we're talking about how much air pollution has risen in Beirut in the last few years, we actually source academic references so we know that we're okay. And also at the end, a producer will go through and fact check that so we make sure our video is clean cut. I don't think I've ever been on a trip where it's gone 100% to plan. And Lebanon is the quintessential example of that happening. I was talking about how getting fuel is like really hard. There could be a day where we can't find fuel, so we can't drive to Beirut to interview a certain person. So you have to be ready for your plan just to totally flip on its head. So I can prep my story outline and I have my ideas, but it's not until I land in Beirut and I meet Giorgio that I find out what is actually going to be happening. And then we just make a plan and then we play it day by day. So where the story outline really comes in handy is when we are rushing around Lebanon and we're in the car on those downtimes. I can look at this Google Doc and then start to go through it and make sure that I have covered everything that we have laid out in like everything we've laid out, and have we covered all these beats and what else do we need to capture. So that's a really great way of keeping me on track. Like I said, the story may develop, there may be changes and developments that we will incorporate in the final script, but that story outline really focuses my attention on what is important to capture. Once this is confirmed and all done, I move into the voiceover. So I get a lot of people asking me about how I do my voiceovers, where I do them. Do I go to a studio? The answer is no. I've always done them myself. I used to do them at home, and now that I've built these sound panels, I have a little DIY hack of turning this space into a sound booth. So I'm going to show you how I do that now. So we're up here, sound panels are here, so we're really close to that dampening. Next thing we need to sort out is these windows. They're very reflective. So the mic is now connected to the laptop. I can see what's going on here. Also, I can put up a script here if I want to in Audition. Sound blankets. Well, they're not sound blankets. I just use blankets, but they work. Okay, so this is the makeshift sound booth that we have. Turn the fridge off, put these, okay, I've put the blankets up, the mic is plugged in, and then the last thing to do is to treat the windows because glass is not great for sound. So that's where I have these blinds. We'll just pull these down and then we can record. It's a tight squeeze, you know, but this is how we do it. And then I will just bring up the script on my phone. I have a tendency of speeding up. So it's trying to slow myself down and just redo lines, get into the flow of it, and just kind of do it like I'm having a conversation, with a very high chance that it will expand into the sea. And then I just do that for like, I don't know, half an hour or so. And then look at it here in Audition. And a little trick that I have that I do is I've set a preset called Andy Basic Voice Adjustment. This just adjusts everything to my voice. At one key command, it runs a ton of different filters. And it's already cleared up my audio. This is how I like it in a voiceover. And then that's it. I export that and I throw that straight into Premiere. I'm shooting on the Sony cameras in 4K 10-bit, so it takes up a lot of space. I back all that footage up onto my laptop, onto multiple hard drives. I then run a script on the files to order them chronologically, so all my cameras are synced up with each other. This will really help the story and editing process in post-production. So I make sure everything's backed up at the end of the day in multiple places and do this every day religiously at the end of a shoot. You get home, you're tired, you're like, okay, time for bed. No, you gotta back up footage. You gotta sort through everything. It's so important. I can't stress that enough. So this is my project folder. Like I said, every day I'm backing up footage into these drives. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then extra stuff. So I move in here and you'll notice how my files are laid out here. We have the date, the time and then the camera. So I know exactly what camera I shot this on, because I'm shooting over my phone, my camera, my drone, DJI Osmo. So I want them all in chronological order. It's really important to then look at all that footage and put it into essentially a working story. And I go through day by day and I just watch each clip, and then I find the ins and outs that I like. Okay, I like that bit here, I like that. And then I drag that section onto this timeline, and I just do that for the entire trip. So of the good footage I like, that now lives here, which is just under 6 hours worth of good footage. So I have it all here, and then I jump into the script and I can take these visuals to build that out. Once the script is done, the voiceover is done, the footage is in those in and out points, I then have this script open when I'm editing. It's right next to me. So I can just go through, because I've written like directions for myself. Here I'm like talking about like, okay, we have to talk about the explosion. So I need to set the tone for that. What's that gonna be? Tension building with sound effects and music. So I know that in this opening moment here, I need to really be expressing those emotions using music and sound effects. So I think I spent about a week building out this script with all the information that I had, adding all that information that I have learned from the trip, watching the interviews that I recorded, and working out what are the most important points that we need in this story. And then my producer and story editor, they come on board, turn my script into a more digestible version of the video. I am also very deep in the weeds at this point. For example, I wrote a huge section that was probably like a minute or 2 minutes explaining Lebanon's political state, which I thought was quite important. And then my producers came in and they're like, okay, this is great, but is it actually super relevant for the piece we're telling? Part of it is, part of it isn't. And they come in with fresh eyes and they can like cut out the bit that is maybe a bit too much. And through that collaboration process, we can really build out like a coherent story that flows well, you know? Because to me, that might be interesting, understanding the different sects of Lebanon's political state, but to a lot of people on YouTube, do they necessarily care? Or how do we make that interesting? So that's the period where we cut the script down, we have a working script, then we're moving into the voiceover and the edit. And then over here is arguably the best part of the studio, which is the gear area, the charging board. So now I'm going to share with you the gear that I took to make this piece in Lebanon, to show you how I produced a documentary of the size we did with just this gear. This Manfrotto bag is my favorite one to take, but for this project, it was just me and I was taking a gimbal, so I needed something a bit bigger. These low pro bags, this is a new one, but this is the one I took. This is like my oldest camera bag. I think it's a Low Pro Tactic. Sony is my jam, mirrorless cameras. This is the A7S III. This is just everything I need in a camera, and have been waiting for this camera for so long. And on it, I have a G Master 24-70, 2.8. I call this the God lens because it just, if I had to have one lens and a camera on a trip, it would be this. It just does everything I need. I can get nice tight shots, I can get wide shots. So this is the lens that I primarily keep on this most of the time. And then audio. Shotgun mic is the JOBY Wavo Pro. This is like a tiny little microphone, but very powerful. Built-in active noise reduction. I can control it from an app. I can attach a lav mic to it. This is really great. I just throw this on top of the A7S III and it just does the job. That's what I want from a shotgun mic. I just want it to turn on and capture great audio. So I always take a tripod and a gorilla pod. This is the Manfrotto B3 carbon fiber tripod. This thing is like super lightweight, This is just like great. And the feature I love about this most is I can also flip it to get top-down shots. Now, I don't know when I'd want that out in the field, but you know, it's helpful. So that, along with this JOBY 3K Pro GorillaPod, this lives on here most of the time. Just like a great vlogging setup and very reliable. So I'm gonna give you guys 3 tips that really helped me when I was moving into the documentary realm to produce the videos that I wanted to produce. So number 1 is good audio. Audio, I think, is the most important bit of making videos and is in some ways pretty underrated. You can have the most beautiful B-roll, the most amazing like intro, like the most cinematic intro sequence, but people will click off your video if they don't know what it's about, if there's no story. Like, great, you can show me the best B-roll for the first minute, but yeah, I'm gone if there's no story. And how do you hear somebody's story? Usually through audio. So having clear audio. So I always have a shotgun mic on top of my camera. So as soon as I turn it on, it automatically comes on and I'm capturing that audio that's in front of me. Like, I could even like mess up the shot, or maybe there's dirt on my lens, and you can find other ways to cover visuals. You can use animations, illustrations, graphs, maps, all those things you can cover up, but you can't really fix bad audio. So audio, number 1. Number 2, just having a really light run and gun setup, I found works great for me. If you're starting out and you're on YouTube, the chances are you don't have a team around you. You don't have lighting or like people that can like monitor audio. It's just you. That's where a GorillaPod or a Manfrotto tripod really come in handy, because I can just have them on my camera. They're really lightweight and I can just run around. I can be capturing handheld shots and I can just put it down and get some nice static shots as well. So it gives you a variety and it's a pretty easy and simple setup. And then number 3 is just having that curiosity to learn more and understand why things are the way they are. And it kind of goes back to what I've said throughout this whole video, is just ask questions. Just be asking as much as you can about the place you are or the topic you're covering. So those are my 3 tips. Good audio, good nimble setup, and always be curious. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you to Wex for letting me be part of this how-to series, and I hope this has inspired you to go out and start creating your own documentary content. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm also starting a new YouTube channel soon that's going to be in a similar vein, exploring topics like this, so look out for that soon on all my socials. Yeah, okay, great. Have a good one. See you guys later.